Welcome to the Clause YouTube channel.
Together, we strive for a safer, secure, and more stable world.
गुड इवनिंग एंड वेलकम टू गना शॉट। गना शॉट में आप सबका स्वागत है। As Trump is going ballistic with his tariffs and India is caught in a dilemma whether to swing towards China or continue with USA, we have to understand that we've gone through Sindoor and a whole lot of other conflicts are taking place. In this entire story, the concepts of air power are changing, and with that, the way we need to modernize and the demands on military modernization are also changing. And this is something we have to be very conscious of. If you want to have strategic autonomy, where you can ward off the pressures from both the superpowers, China and USA, you need to be strong. And air power is a major component of our any military power. And we need to debate it openly in the light of Sindoor or experiences there before and all that. This is a de novo look. And it's an attempt to bring certain issues to the fore. And if certain things come out in this discussion, which are not to anyone's liking, it is not because General Sharma, who I've invited specially for this show, and I have a view which is contrary to or contrarian to official thought process. We broadly, are in sync with the whole thing. But at the same time, if you want to have a good plan, if you want to have good vision, you want to have good action now, today, tomorrow, day after, you need to be a bit clear and do some introspection. So this is all about introspection. So I welcome to Gana Shot. We're meeting after a long time on this platform. I hope I've got my introduction right.
So you're right. And thank you for inviting me, General Shankar. It's always a pleasure. I am a avid follower of what you bring out nearly every day. And of course, there are many differences of opinion, but anything that gets your mind moving, positive or negative, is good. And I think I compliment you for initiating many debates across into the country as part of your gunner shot that you bring in. So thank you for inviting me. And if I'm able to contribute in a small, minuscule percentage, it will be a pleasure.
Yes, sir. I think that's what our aim is today. And so we're going to question some basics. I wouldn't say we're not going to question basics. We're going to put out what it is, what we thought should be. Is there a case for us to revise the way we thought? Because no war is going to get repeated, and no weapon systems are going to be static. If any, today the Chief of Army Staff gave a talk in the IIT Madras, which I'll put out a little later, maybe a day or two later. And one of the important points, he said, look, if you think next time we are able to repeat what we did in Sindoor with the technologies we have sadly mistaken. Neither will Sindoor be there, nor will these same technologies work, because the whole thing is going to change. So it is in this context that I thought we'll discuss. And the first question I have for General Sharma, and which we'll discuss, this is not a question answer session, it's going to be conversation. What do you think is the concept of modern war, and what is the concept of victory? Because people win in the battle and lose in the social media. So I think we need to clarify that, sir, in today's circumstances. Your views.
Yeah, thank you, Jan Shankar. The point is that at a drop of a hat, we go back to Westphalia and Clausewitz because it suits us. It's the theory that we go across. So when we wish to define war, we go back to violent wars. We go back to between state actors and physicality involved into wars. Can the modern wars, you can achieve the military, politico-military aims without firing a shot, fighting. if we lose or somebody loses territorial integrity without firing a shot, is that not a war? So if you see 6 to 7 countries fighting in South China Sea, they have lost substantial territory because the Chinese say there's a 9-dash line and they occupy the entire thing. And it is war. I mean, they lost territorial integrity. I would say, as an example, Azerbaijan and Armenia, they fought so many wars together. But on, there was a peace kind of a ceasefire on, and on one fine night on 19th of September, a year and a half ago, the Azerbaijanis went in and occupied the complete Nagorno-Karabakh. So the
Yeah.
war that started in 1915 was suddenly finished in 24 hours without firing a shot. They completely overran the Nagorno-Karabakh. They pushed 1.5 lakh Armenians
People
or
out.
people
Yeah.
out, and they said this is our territory. Jo karna kar lo. Now jo karna kar lo ki baat aayi na, so there was no shot fire, though they have fought wars earlier. Was that not a war? So I would hasten to add that for us, we do need to redefine. If, let's say, India gets a debilitating cyber attack, or Ukraine got a debilitating cyber attack in which all its military communication was put off the day the war started on 20th, 21st, 22nd of February. And fortunately, Elon Musk came and provided him the constellation of satellites, and they were able to accumulate. But for 1 minute of some time, there was no military communication available to Ukraine. Was not a debilitating attack like that a war? So I think that the grammar of the war in modern circumstances need to change. We say, now you see Americans say that we brought peace into Iran. 12-day war, we recently fought it. How did they bring peace in 12 days war? Because they used the massive bombs that they used to destroy the nuclear facilities using B-2 bombers. So bombs for peace. They said with bombing we brought peace. Bombing for peace is nothing new. It has been there in history for a long time. But they did that. So just bombing for peace is the whole thought process of war. If we keep waiting for border wars, then we will be problematic in describing a war. That's why the whole definition, the grammar of war needs to be redefined. That what you agree, or you have some other views on this?
No, I completely agree with you, sir. Because war is just not about firing missiles at each other and firing this thing. Like someone said, I mean, why someone? Many people have said, war is politics by other means. That's what Closet said, and it's very right. And even Mao, what did he say? Mao said politics is war without bloodshed, and war is politics with bloodshed. It's interchangeable,
Yeah,
right? And if you can win a conflict or an event or an issue without shedding bloodshed, well, that's it's a victory in war. It's a political victory. Ultimately, everything is for political victory, right? And at the same time, there is also this thing that the way wars are being fought is changing with technology.
yeah,
It's no more that with like take the case of Opsindur between India and Pakistan. We say there's a new normal. I agree, there's a new normal. But what's the new normal? Have you thought of it?
yeah,
The new normal is that, okay, if Pakistan does something, we'll go in and do what we have to do. But the new normal also defines the upper limit of what you can do.
correct.
So if there's an upper limit, in fact, the way I look at it, it's a bit of a contra view. By saying that I'll go to war hereafter every time there's a terrorist incident, you put up the lower limit also. So the threshold, the lower threshold for war has gone up. The upper threshold for war has stayed. Actually, the story of war between India and Pakistan, I make it contextual, has narrowed. So what is victory in such a condition? Because you can go bomb 12 of his airfields out, and Pakistan's not going to collapse. He's going to be there on the 13th day, getting back at you.
So exactly the point.
Yeah,
See, when you talk about victory, now look, Iran said after the 12 days walk they were victorious. We know that
Yeah.
Iran had got massive bombs by Israel and subsequently by the Americans. But what did the Iranians do? They did their own type of missiles and drones across to Iran, also in Qatar in the end, if you remember. But all of them not able to reach because there was an excellent AD umbrella which Israelis had. But some were able to get through. They were able to target Haifa, they were able to target Tel Aviv. They actually forced the population down into dungeons, safeguarding
Yeah.
facilities. And in a country where people enjoy outside, was suddenly pushed down to bunkers. And also there, Iran has got 28, 29 airfields. Two, three, four of them were brought down, but rest were all flying. But Israel had only two, three airfields. So, if Iranians were able to bring down at Haifa and Tel Aviv, they brought a little damage across to Israel, including the psychology. So, what I want to say is that when you say who's victor, Al Jazeera announced Iran is a victor. Now, well, Al Jazeera is right or wrong is immaterial. But the point is, they announced Iran is a victor in many ways. In our case, we say we are victorious in Op Sindoor, and we have actually tangible evidence to prove, yes, we were victors in Op Sindoor. But the Pakistanis made tremendous amount of noise on their own, promoted this gentleman to field marshal, and they had lunch with President Trump and said, we are victorious. And their air chief is now traveling all over the world saying how we were victorious. The fact is, the definition of victory has changed. And that's the future of it. The victory that if we talk to each other, we say victory means Bangladesh. We say, okay, capture of regime change, we made new country, there was prisoners of war, there were decimation of enemies, war fighting potential, etc., etc. But then, those are no more metrics of victory. I finish a war, my people must say, yes, you are victorious, and they should have evidence. So I should finish a war with distinct strategic advantage. And war can be 2 days, a war can be 10 days. But we must finish it with some strategic advantage, saying we have done something much better than the adversary did. Adversary will make his noise, adversary's friends will make worldwide noise, what the Chinese did in Op Sindoor. But that
Yeah.
apart, tangibly, we must show that we ended the war with distinct strategic advantage, and it is not a victory measured by metrics that were laid down previously. What do you say?
Yeah, I think so. That we have achieved. I mean, on that score, sir, we have no doubts because I think in this whole story, barring the fact that all Pakistanis are convinced they won the war because they feel that if the chief of army staff has become a field marshal, they would have won the war. They have won the war. That's the soap opera which is going on there, like you rightly said. But in our side, I don't see many people saying that we lost the war. In fact, no one.
Yeah.
We are convinced as a people that look, we've taught Pakistan a lesson. There's no doubt, and there's tangible evidence of damage. Oh, it's a moot question who caused the damage. That's a thing which we will come back to,
Yeah.
right? And there's no doubt about it that we've done. Yeah, it's okay. Media wars, cognitive warfare can go on. The antidote to that is cognitive warfare from your own side to convince your own people don't fall for that nonsense.
Yeah.
So I think on that scale, well, Op Sindoor is okay. But tomorrow, how do you change this is a question mark. But that brings me to another thing. Look, if you are going to fight a modern war, you have a clear idea and you want to define a concept of victory or not, or however you want to do it. Whatever you want to do, you have to build for tomorrow's. You have to build your capability for tomorrow. Because, like, yesterday's war is not going to be fought tomorrow. Yesterday's technology will not be there. We're going to fight with some other technology, some other way. Because whoever thought that someone will go and hit Nurkan base or Sargoda,
Yeah.
right? Okay. So, I mean, how do you build capacity for the future when you can't define a concept of victory and you can't define how war will pan out?
So the point is that a lot of people we attend all these Op Sindoor things. They said, okay, it was not a war, it was a skirmish. Okay, people call it it was a small battle camp. It was not a war. But the The Israelis fought a 12-day war. Israelis also fought a 7-day war, Yom Kippur, etc. So, do we measure the war by days or by the intensity or by the achievement of aims? I think we have boxed ourselves into terminology like campaigns because we go back to Second World War and enjoy those African campaign and the Sicilian campaign, all that. But let's not get close ourselves by saying, okay, this is the battle, this is skirmish, this was a coercion. No, leave the words apart. It was pure and simple war. That it finished in 4 days is hats off to good escalation control. And it could have gone across to
Yeah,
any
yeah.
number of days. So, I would not jettison here. But I take the issue about what you just spoke about capabilities. No, what about uh, what capabilities do you require for future wars? Now, look, I get anxious when I read about capabilities. They say air power is a capability, or maneuver warfare is a capability. Say tanks and a capability. Now, I think when we talk about capabilities, we have to be very cautious. For me, firepower is not a capability. For me, if I study, I study this issue. For me, a capability is that I should have a power with me to carry out a specified act which leads across to the national aims, which is agnostic of domains, the army, navy, air force, cyber, SEMA. Okay, those are important. But to me, a capability is, for example, I'll say A to AD. Now, when you say A to AD, we discuss A to AD. You have been discussing A to AD often. Or I'll say battlefield transparency. So, battlefield transparency is a military capability. It doesn't have to be specifically to army, navy. It includes everything. It includes drones of the air force. It includes drones of us. It includes this satellite which got ISRO has got. It also includes satellites the military has got. It also includes the radars which are available with the army, the navy, with the air force. Everybody, all capabilities together form the military capability called battlefield transparency. Now we say no, air power. So we get stuck into land power, air power, sea power. We miss out on the capabilities.
Capabilities.
Yeah. So for me, a capability is agnostic of arms and services, and it's agnostic of it only involves into what aim we want to achieve. And to me, the biggest aim we want to achieve today is battlefield transparency that we achieve for ourselves and how we deny it to the enemy. That I think two facets are the most important part of our military capability that we ought to have.
Yeah. Apart from that, once you get that battlefield transparency, you need to have the capability to inflict punishment, means to inflict punishment on the enemy. Whether that punishment leads to through ground maneuver, air power, whatever you call it, land power, sea power, is a matter of this thing that you need to, destroy him or degrade him, neutralize him the way you want, and you have to have capability to achieve that. Right? That's the way we all understand it. And in today, we are looking at multi-domain wars. You're not going to fight just in air, through air or through the medium of, land or sea. You're also fighting him through the electronic medium. You're fighting him through the space, right? There are complementary things, and this business of information and propaganda and public opinion building is also a huge domain which has come up. And then the nuclear. I think nuclear is a domain which has come up in its own right because, say, 5, 6 years, 10 years back, not many were talking about how you're going to use nuclear weapons, or for that matter, non-nuclear weapons for conventional or non-conventional deterrence. So the whole story has changed of
Yeah.
multi-domain wars, and I think there's a very weak understanding of multi-domain wars. Everyone talks of it, but how does it going to manifest itself? How are you going to apply each domain to your advantage? Is something we need to think through. I'd like your views on this, sir.
So, Shankar, before we get into domains, and I think it's a very important issue that you raised, India has to fight a technological war is guaranteed. Next war has to be technological guaranteed. I saw yesterday's show also. But India also has to fight old wars. We have disputed battlefields, disputed areas, 4,000 kilometers of LAC and LC, which is LOC and LAC, which is disputed. And now, as you're aware, all 4,000 kilometers, 700 kilometers, 770 in against POK in Gilgit Baltistan, and 124 against AGPL, and now 3,400 against China. The entire gamut of affairs, we are deployed on both sides of the borders. So there is an old war being fought with modern technology. Of course, with modern technology, but it's an old war. We are still in trenches, exactly how the Russians are in trenches and the Ukrainians are in trenches from Donbass to Kherson, the entire 1,000-kilometer front. There are 3 tiers of defenses. They are fighting the First World War with the technology of the 21st century. So we have an old war and we have a new war. So there is a battlefield, I would say, singularity. The singularity says you fight old wars and you fight new wars, and all are combined together. With that basis, I say, let me define the domain. Let me talk about the domains. So a domain, let's say, the physical domains, and then there are virtual domains. So when we say there's a physically defined domain, multi-domain is a physically defined. Air is a physically defined domain that requires particular capabilities that lend itself to war fighting capabilities to achieve the aims. So air becomes a war fighting domain of this type. So when you say the physical domains, so 4 physical domains are the land, the air, the sea, and of course space. So there are 4 physical domains, and they set up that they are physically defined. Everybody requires capability. Land requires land specific capabilities. For the mountains, a particular ones, a high altitude, a particular one. For the plains, you want an RT division, you require different capabilities across into the desert, absolutely different into the obstacle terrain. So there are land capabilities, land domain, the air domain, the sea domain, and the space domain. We did 4 domains. Then you come to the virtual domains. Now these virtual domains, I think, didn't exist 20-25 years ago. When we fought Kargil, kya bolte the? We didn't say. But we now to talk about virtual domains, and the virtual domains are permeating across to all the other domains. So the whole issue is that the capabilities of one domain seamlessly integrate with the capabilities of the other domain, so that they fuse together and become a kind of advantage. So you mentioned cyber, mentioned electromagnetic spectrum. We mentioned, then of course we meant dimensions of information warfare, cognitive warfare, human issues. So that those become virtual domains. Each one are relevant in their own end. So then those between physical and between virtual domains, they shift. The warfare shifts into various domains, and it generates a kind of complementarity. So one domain reinforces the other. So nobody can say, I fought my war into my domain. It can't be done. Though we will discuss this subsequently, where how warfare is changing, where maybe the air domain may not come to support the ground forces in close air support in future. As a thing. Today, till yesterday, when we were growing up, you and me, and of course I was growing up, you're getting younger, but when we were growing
I like that.
so when we were
Okay.
growing up, we just had, where is the FSC, where is the air support and all that. Aaj ki date mein, we have to now think that complementarity, it directly may not exist, indirectly may exist because of interdiction or strategic interdiction or operational interdiction that the Air Force might provide. So, finally, that complementarity is what assists us. And if that complementarity is failing, then the question that you raised initially when raised it, do we require substitutes? Do we have to rethink on domains?
Yeah,
What do
I
you think?
think so. So yeah, there's no doubt so, because that's the crux of what we have to discuss. You know, I mean, since you've spoken of air power, and air power dominated thinking during Op Sindoor and our most recent war. I don't call it a conflict; it's a war, right? And air power was the dominant thing in with the in Op Sindoor and many other places. So I think first and foremost we need to understand this entire concept of air power. What is this new concept of air power we have to rethink? In the old times, one thought air power means fighter aircraft will come, do close air support, sort out all the enemy installations in front of you, where the defenses are sorted out. Then you attack his airfields, like what it did in Bangladesh. What in the eastern area, we just wiped out his airfields, and thereafter that place only we did land domain actions and some naval domain actions in Bangladesh. Right? So, well, is that concept of air power still valid? With the introduction of AD, missiles, space, and space-based intelligence, and ISR, and drones have come in a big way. In fact, today the Chief of Army Staff said, "Look, I want every man in the army to have an eagle on his arm, and the eagle on his arm is a drone, and a drone is part of the air power system. It's
Yeah.
flying in the air. It's yeah. So I'd like you to give your view on this changed concept of air power, and then we'll talk of how this has affected recent battles and how air power has been applied in recent battles.
So finally, no domain fights a war on its own. Finally, you get some political objectives, which get translated into political aims, get translated into military objectives, and the military objectives are then made into some joint plans, and joint plans go across to what the Air Force will do, the Army will do, and how does that mesh together into that aims. So the Air Force or air power, firstly, is not fighting a private battle. It comes across from political objectives and the joint plan that was been made. Having said that, now the question that you asked is emotive, which is, if you say that HIMARS, for example, HIMARS, the famous one,
Yeah, yeah,
300 kilometers range, 300 kilometers, that artillery shell, 300 kilometers, and all the other ones, the ACTMS and all that.
attacks.
ATACMS. Okay. Now the artillery, the Chinese say what, PL 191, they claim
Yeah,
to have 500 kilometers range. 500 kilometers range. 500 kilometers artillery is a range of Pralay missile in India. Same thing we're talking about. Now you see that artillery shell that takes off from Ladakh and goes 300 kilometers or 500 kilometers is using airspace. It's a missile, because it's a precision weapon system also. So when you say a drone, which can be a quadcopter, or you say a satellite, or we say an artillery shell which goes a long range, and of course the air power, the most potent force that exists in an armed force is the air power. So the air power also all add on to the usage, and of course missiles and rockets and AD and everything else all become users of that same airspace. So they become air power, and air power would also be in attack captors. We recently getting one.
yeah, yeah.
Chinese are getting Chinese selling recently to Pakistan, and so all that becomes air power. So air power is also the issues of helicopters, the command and control helicopters, the logistics aircraft, the C-130s, the C-17, all is air power. Air power is a huge gamut of affairs, and also includes the power rests with the army or the navy, the air power existing with the
Yeah.
navy as well. So so all that is air power. So then the question comes is, Clinton said once in Iraq war that only the air force can stop an army.
Mhm.
Iraq war, Iraq
Yeah,
won.
yeah, yeah.
And then, of course, there was the air campaign in Kosovo, which very major in air campaign, where when Mark Whistler said that the only aim of the Air Force is to change the regime. Imagine, this is air power being given political objectives directly. Air campaign. There were no ground forces being used across in the Kosovo air campaign, but only air campaign. But I talk today. I come to permissive environment and non-permissive environment. When I say that there is a permissive environment where the Air Force can do what they want to do, or air power can do what they want to do without a hitch, or there is an environment where there are hitches involved, where air power cannot be used ad lib. There is restraints or constraints across the use of air power in non-permissive environment. The Americans, when they want to use the air power, they create a permissive environment and ensure a permissive environment before they send B-52, B-2 bombers. They won't do it. They said, Israelis, you sort the AD out, they will be not in equation, then we will come with B-2s. So they created a permissive environment. Now,
and they called that chap for lunch also. They called that guy for lunch also.
yeah, they called him for lunch also.
And that's also part of the permissive environment they made.
Yeah. And so the issue I'm raising is that we come to contextual issues now. Will it be possible for us to have a permissive environment in future, even if it's for a short while and a short time, or short area or short terrain, which with our adversaries whom we know, whose capabilities we understand? They may not be the best. They may have many shortfalls, but is it be a permissive environment? Now, that brings us to the utilization of air power in conjunction with the surface forces, that's the Navy and the ground, and enmeshing together. It's a domainal, it's a multi-domainal warfare, and how best the power of the air can be brought to bear to ground operations. Or do we say that we take what happened in Iraq, Israel and Iran, and what happened between India and Pakistan 10 steps forward, and said in future there will be no ground wars, it will be sorted out only by the air power? These are very important issues to be discussed, and you said chief spoke on something like this. So the next war is to be fought will be Sindoor plus, or it will enmesh the complementarity of the domains and create the capabilities for us to succeed. This requires a blank paper and rethinking of how future wars will be fought, and it's not an easy exercise.
Right, sir. I completely agree with you, because what's going to come in the future is something which we really don't know. But what we know is, we know the technology is at hand. The capabilities which have come out. For example, air defense capabilities have grown up. Drone capabilities of armies have grown up. And, missile capabilities have grown. And they've occupied airspace. You see, you have a spectrum of airspace where you're going to fight. Earlier, you had only so many missiles. Now that space has expanded. You had so many drones only. Now it's the number of drones have expanded. Then you're doing something from the space also, the space. And now all this, when you want to apply this across territory, there's something called the air defense also, which has come up. And now people are talking of offensive air defense. It's a concept. And drones and all this. Now, in this context, if you want to look into the future, you have to definitely look into what's happened, in the contemporary conflicts. Let's look at that. What's happened in Russia and, Ukraine? What's happened in Iran and Israel, and what's happened in Op Sindoor? This is my view, and you could, at every point of time, all countries, there are 6 countries in this bargain, 7th is USA, right? In these 3 conflicts. These are active conflicts. All countries postured with their hardcore air power called the fighters or the bombers, right? But actually fought with none of them. And they fought with all of them in a non-contact mode. I mean, look at it. This is a fact. And today, if you look at the longest running battle, Ukraine versus Russia, they're only trading missiles. They're only trading, drones. Right? There could be FPV drones which have been inserted 3,000 kilometers into enemy territory by Ukraine into Russia and hitting way deep, by other means. Every second day, you find some part of Ukraine being wiped off by a missile force. Both have, I mean, at least Russia has a whole lot of aircraft still waiting. It's not using. I mean, it's a fact. Neither is it using the aircraft for offensive air support. They tried it initially and done with it. Nor are the transport aircraft being done in conjunction with the ground forces to do some great maneuvers. And mind you, so why I'm taking Russia, Ukraine as a battlefield and talking of it, 3 years of battle. This is the same place where the Nazis or the German army, the southern German army, intruded. They went right up to the Caucasus for those oil fields. This is the same place Kursk had the greatest tank battle on earth. Okay. And Kharkov. Kharkov saw 3 battles, 1, 2, 3. This is the area of the one Manstein's backhand plan, which all of us learned during,
Yeah, yeah,
staff college,
yeah, right.
right? Where there were swinging battles of tanks going across Ukraine, one end to the other. Here you don't find anything. They stopped at that line, Kherson, Donetsk and Luhansk, and that's it. Air power not being used, tank power not being used. The whole story has changed. So I would like, and same thing here with us. I would like you to, I mean, in this context, transpose it to what's happened with us. And
So,
would you like to define what happened with us and let's discuss it? Your views.
so you see, the point is that, like you rightly said, spoke, that the AD envelope has become very rich. And AD envelope does not imply only ground-based AD, including the air defense aircraft. It is also includes the electronic warfare equipment which exists, and electronic warfare aircraft by themselves, or the space, or even the directed energy weapons. Not much in use, but they exist across here. That envelope has become an extended so much that to venture in, and it has become so highly automated. The sensors and the shooters have become so highly automated, and that even the Pakistanis, the Link 11, the Link 16, the Link 17, and the later day links that they have established with Bedu, etc., are so live, and it's all automated. It is all, you can't even, it's not a question of ECM or ECCMs. It is a question of diffusing in the array of radars, that you can't even pick up as to you are being noted down by the adversary's radars. So the envelope has become so strong. I do not subscribe to the theory that the Russians do not know, Russian Air Force does not know how to fight wars. I think that is not right in the manner of speaking. The Russians are the ones who are the fathers of 70% of the Indian Air Force. So, and also the worldwide, and they have been training and they have been fighting for years altogether in many ways. So, I mean, it is just a question of a strong AD envelope. You see the kind of air defense which Israel has got. We say Iron Dome, there is a David Sling, there's a Patriot system, and there's the Aegis which is available with the ships of the in the Mediterranean.
And they have the TARD also. TARD.
Yes. Yeah. And then, of course, there is Jordanian Air Force also, which also supports them in some form or the other. If that is the kind of strong AD envelope, if you send an aircraft or a posse of aircrafts, you are getting into trouble, because you won't be able to reach the target and you will be decimated. So who would like to try it out? The Iranians' AD was weaker, much weaker, and the Israelis' intelligence was way better. So they knew how to target each one of them, and they decimated the air defense, or at least pushed it underground and make sure that they were able to say, okay, we have a air supremacy. That's a rare phenomena that you had. They had an air supremacy where B-52s could fly from Mississippi and come down and hit it and go back. That is a rarity. Can you do the same thing to Israel? You can't do it. Can you do the same thing to Ukraine with the kind of air defense equipment in Patriots, etc., it's got from the West? You can't do it. The Russians are not even trying it. This is what I say. It becomes a non-permissive environment to undertake operations of the air power, and air power has to function in that manner outside the envelope. If you fight from white, so then there is an advantage between a BrahMos which is fired, say, from the ground, and a BrahMos which is fired from the air. The BrahMos fired from the air gets an additional momentum and kinetic energy more, and it can do much more than the BrahMos fired from the ground. So there is an advantage here. But the fact is that now the targeting, if we have to do in future, has to be based on understanding the strong AD envelope and the non-permissive environment that we have, or undertake focused CAD and DAD operations, as we call it, suppression of enemy air defense or destruction of enemy air defense, before venturing across there. So the dog fights that you see in fighter movies and the
That's
Himalayan,
out, sir.
that's out. So
That's out.
and of course, those kind of in Top Gun way, they look nice on Top Guns, but it is not Top Gun movie effect. But that effect on ground is rarity, which gives us a thought process as to which is the direction one should move into future. This is what, when we talk about what is the requirement of future capabilities, and which future capabilities will bring to us tremendous amount of power to put the enemy and achieve our political military aims, that answers you come to this kind of non-permissive. And while you and me have been on high altitude long, I commanded a corps there, we used to think about Tibet in a similar manner, but we follow what the Chinese have done in the air assets, in the airfields, in the runways extension, and the underground silos, and the brass fence made, and all the. So they have made a transformatory change into the air assets and air bases available to them, and even in Tibet, in the course of last 4 years, understanding very well. So when I say power to hit the adversary, of which air power is the most important component, I would say similarly that the missiles available with the ground forces and all other paraphernalia, including the loiter, including the kamikaze drones, including if we use space eventually, or we use any other means to do electronic warfare, etc., all put part into a capability to take on the adversary and do what he says, counter intervention. So we have to counter intervene to him. We have to do the entire whole gamut of affairs, and that mandates a kind of coordination which is next level, which is the new normal.
Yeah, I think so. And let me put it, so we've spoken of the Russia-Ukraine uh, environment. You've spoken of Israel and Iran and what the Americans did. I think we need to reappraise what we did or revisit Op Sindoor. Let's look at it this way. What worked for us in Op Sindoor and what didn't work for us in Op Sindoor? We need to be very clear. The first night, when we destroyed 9 targets, terrorist camps, what people don't understand is 7 targets. 7 out of the 9 were taken out by ground forces.
By the
Pure,
artillery.
simple artillery. Okay.
Simple.
As effective. You can't. Right.
And sorry, let me add, and loiter drones. The Palm
Yeah,
400.
drones. No.
Fantastic.
Today I don't see drones not being part of artillery. They're integral. It's a different thing that we messed it up in the army by taking out the aviation and giving these drones to the aviation. That's a big mess up against which I think we need to revisit that completely. Right? Those long range drones. Because I know that for the simple reason I had a troop of herons when I was commanding the RT2. What it did to me with after all the same BrahMos, same Smirch, same Pinakas I had those days. What it did to me, and when those things were taken off and given it to someone else, what it did to our combat capability is something different. But we need to accept that we need to do something.
But
Artillery without drones.
artillery wasn't artillery the mother directorate of drones at that time.
Yeah, see, we had a flip for some funny reasons, which are not logical, some illogical reasons. Now people are now getting back to that. That look, everyone needs drones, but the long range drones, the artillery needs. If you don't have that, that complementarity is not there. You'll not repeat the 7 targets again. That is a given. And tomorrow, my way of looking at this, it's not those 7 targets which are shallow targets which you have to hit. You have to hit deeper.
Correct.
We have to hit deeper. There's no doubt.
Correct.
Now we'll come to those 2 targets. Those 2 targets we hit by the Air Force, with the Air Force. Right. We hit them. There's no doubt. Beautiful. At the same time, there were claims by Pakistan that they did something. Not proven, unproven, some left to doubt. It coming out from official statements, coming out in parliament, leaves some issues. The fact is that all our fighters didn't cross the border. They were out of the Pakistani AD envelope, or rather their AD capability. What went across? What went across were this Harop and Harpies, which took out their communication systems, missiles, drones, whatever you call it. They are a combination of the two. What went across and did admirably well was BrahMos.
Yeah.
Yeah, BrahMos. Okay. Now, it's a moot point whether you fight BrahMos from the ground or from the air. You did make a mention that, look, BrahMos from the air gets you longer range. But I have a different view on that. So what if it gets you a longer range? Does it get you greater efficacy? Because the BrahMos fired from the ground or from the air, the efficacy is the same. And the depth of Pakistan is the same. 400 kilometers. Today, BrahMos goes across from any part of India, it will go across into Afghanistan. Any BrahMos which is held whether by the Air Force, Navy or this thing.
Yeah, it does. It does so.
Right. So if that is your thing, was it a great idea to fire BrahMos from the air? It's a direct question, because as a gunner, I can understand this. And expose your aircraft. Could you have used your aircraft for a different purpose and use ground-based systems? Because if your aircraft is flying, he has to orient, look at the target, do all that. He gets vulnerable at some point of time. On the other hand, the guy from ground, one BrahMos goes in behind a sand dune, fires and scoots. And you can spread your BrahMos all over the countryside. You're not stuck on, I'm talking about the ground thing. You're not stuck by airfield. You're only stuck by ammunition, which you can scatter off. We have to rethink. When I say rethink, we have to rethink our own BrahMos bases and things like that. And we also have to rethink, the way you're going to operate these, whether from the ground or from the air. Could we have done something better? We used, again, offensive air power, offensive air defense. We've done. Our S-400 did a great job taking off, the Saab, Hawkeye and all that. Their AVX at the greatest thing and the greatest range kill. We have done that. That is also a missile at the end of the day. So is there a case for us to rethink our entire force structure? Right? Is there, and in a contested environment where the window of opportunity to turn the tables completely on Pakistan is poor, or rather thinner, which I said in the beginning is thinner, is there a case to change our force structure? Whatever the thing, in that case, this great debate which we talk of, that we'll be suffering, we'll be at a disadvantage because we don't have the 5th generation aircraft and all. Is it a valid problem? I mean, that's a thing which I'm putting out in the open now. I'm talking openly about it. These are things which we have to debate. It's not a matter of someone wearing a blue uniform and trying to say, I'm the only last, vestige of air power and I only can think. The power which you need is to destroy the enemy. How you do it is a different story.
Yeah.
So your views on this?
So, you see, we are treading onto your slippery ground here. So this is a very slippery area that we're getting into.
No, I agree with you, sir. This is very slippery ground for a person who is in an OG uniform, in a white uniform and a blue uniform.
Yeah.
But from a national perspective, I don't think this is slippery ground. If it is slippery ground and we have to slip, the nation slips.
So, I read an article written by a very senior Air Force of an air marshal, and recently, last month, and I respect him quite a bit. So he says that he talks about the same envelope that we say, and he says that the Saabs and the AEW aircraft have been pushed way out. They have become not so important in the present day war, because the envelope by itself, the AD envelope, and which includes the AMRANs, and it includes the
Yeah.
PL10, the PL15, the PL whatever they want to use it, and that pushes. If we have, say, BrahMos NG tomorrow, day after, we'll have BrahMos NG, and it has a range of 750 kilometers. Well, like you said, Iran, today, this time, the Saab was flying over Quetta, looking
Hmm.
into India. What can he look into India flying over Quetta, Baluchistan? Because you see the routing that they showed, that box that it was making across there,
It is way
it's
back,
so
sir.
far away. It's other end of the world, because he has to get out of the envelope of a air defense missile, like a Scalp or a Rampage or one of these ones. The point here is the knowledge of the envelope. What does the adversary possess? How does the adversary wishes to use it? And what precautions I must take, or what defensive and offensive mechanisms are necessary? Here I feel that probably, I mean, naturally, truth is not with us, and people who matter must be brutally examining the truth,
Yeah.
and taking adversity. So we must grant it to the men in uniform today that they have been brutally honest, and they have actually studied it, and they have come out to right answers as to what is the right answer for. In fact, I would say Pakistanis. You mentioned about BrahMos. The BrahMos 3.5 Mach speed aircraft, aircraft cannot even be seen, let across, be downed by any AD system today.
It can't be.
It can't.
It can't be.
It can't be. But the adversary knows it can't be. So now the adversary will start working to this end to make sure that they find a thwart for it. Today, tomorrow, 2 years, 5 years, they will attempt to find a mechanism against, say, BrahMos, because hereafter they will have hypersonics which will fly at 10 Mach. That is absolutely not visible. It just flies so fast that you just cannot. No radar can pick it up, and and of course they'll be stealthy also. So I'm just wanting to say that knowledge base, how is the deployment of PL10s? The Israelis knew exactly where the AD of Iranians was deployed on ground, by ground int, by human int, and technological int, all guaranteed. That is the kind of intelligence required to start counting as to what is the power of the enemy's air defense, flying in the air and on the ground, and then protect the envelope to take it on. So well, if the air defense is to get that strong in times to come, and unfortunately in our times, as we were growing up in service, the air defense remained constrained. Indian air defense remained qualitatively constrained by age-old weapon systems, that they did not rise up to that level. I think now the Indian air defense will change. So the issue I wish to raise is, and there are also issues of data links. The network centricity, or network enablement of warfare, which permits the weapon systems to automate themselves and to autonomously work and take on the targets. Now here, when there is no human input across here, when the decision making is being carried out by AI, human on the loop or human outside the loop, whichever way it is, in that particular manner, that you have to protect yourself in that envelope, then you require weapon systems which have ranges, and which have potency, and it has the power and the force and the speed to avoid the envelope and create the targets, which was a success story that we used on 10th
Yeah,
of
on that, no doubt about
10th
it.
of, that we decimated it using being standoff and being taken down, which makes it also. And again, that issue which said in battlefield transparency. Now anything that is visible will be hit. He guaranteed anything visible will be hit. You can't camouflage, you can't mask, you can't decoy, you can't deter. Everything is visible. And these are the kind of satellite. If we ourselves are going for SBS-3, the Chinese are going for 26,000 LEO satellites. The kind of transparency which will be available to even Pakistan will be great in times to come. And we have yet to reach uh, commensurate levels. So the fact I'm saying is, with that kind of transparency, even the ground forces get constrained as badly as the air forces do, because our movement is also as visible, and are also, we say, concentrate in time and place and disperse. The battlefield has become, uh, I mean, simply said, disgusting, because it is the change is tremendous. I would say that if I am hit by on a if I do cross border cross domain. I was hit at Palgam. I used the Air Force and I used the artillery, two things, and maybe loitering ammunition. We need to say, what else can we do? Can we bomb the country out of shape by only cyber bombs? I'm just saying,
Yep.
you know, and are we prepared to do so? And who is the one who's preparing to do so? In fact, my personal view is that offensive cyber must come to people in uniform, because people in uniform are the targeting specialists. They are the ustads to think that way. And the defensive cyber has to be disaggregated across to everybody else. So we have to now start thinking, amalgamating of the system, the air power, the ground power, in terms of missiles, rockets, and the missile rockets in the air with the air power, all have to be amalgamated and used conjoined. You can't say that the Brahmas of General Shankar and the Brahmas of the Air Force are two separate things.
No, you can't. You can't.
But let me make one point here. Look, this time we said there were so many drones that came against us, and some figure saying 600 drones came against us. 400 to 600. If you start from Leh or Skardu and come down to Kutch, it's 3,000 kilometers. 600 drones are no swarm, and the quality of drones used were toys.
Yeah, toys.
Next time, they will not be toys. And next time, a swarm will be a swarm. And the swarm is not going against the airbase alone. You see, presently,
Everything.
The Western Front. Yeah, Western Front has become so demographically great. No, it's from Jammu down to deserts is just one city. Yeah. The whole thing has become one city. Where one city ends and where the next one starts, you don't. And both sides of the border. Then the requirement of the air defense, and where you said shoot and scoot and run away, will be so much that you have to now protect every small place over a very large frontage. So the air defense is of the country. The air defense is not only of airfields and the air bases. Yeah, the whole conceptology changes here as to how to defend ourselves and how to attack themselves.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. The important points which so far, for all those who are listening to this, which have come out is, you have to think differently in tomorrow's battle.
Yeah.
You need to use your cyber power. You need to use your, electronic warfare power, which was used. It's not as if we didn't use. We need to use our missile power better. You need to integrate your missile power, your cyber power, and your space power in a more imaginative way. You need to integrate your air power, or rather the hardcore fighter aircraft power, and the ground-based missile power, or the air-based missile power. After all, at the end of the day, a fighter is what? Is a platform in air. It's also launching a missile. The chap on the ground is also launching a missile. There's no
Yeah.
difference otherwise. Gone are the days when he's going to fire, guns on the ground. He's going to.
Yeah.
These are the fundamentals.
Yeah, there is no Gatling guns.
There's no Gatling guns. Gone. He's also got a missile. There's a missile here. There's a missile on the ship. How do you use these missiles intelligently is what you have to think of. And How do you use deception? How do you use, well, deception is a thing which we didn't talk of. A lot of talk was about
Absolutely.
decoys and things like that. But did we use deception optimally? And this deception has to be not just for airfields and aircraft, or it has to be across the board everywhere, like what you said.
Let me
So I
let me
think
add
so.
on the deception alone. Look, we need to concentrate on deception. Which is the department of deception we have? We need to have we have to somebody. You can't use old टूटे-फूटे tanks T-55 and put it there. ये मैं deception कर रहा हूँ. This doesn't deceive anybody today because he sees it. Yeah, he is visible. So deception is an art. It's imagination. It's ingenuity, and there has to be professionalism involved. It's not routine.
Yeah, I think so, sir. And and if you look at it this way, the question which comes to my mind is, I'm very clear about it, that you need to theatrize at the earliest. I'm jumping. I'm jumping the thing that don't you think we need to theatrize earliest? And I personally felt, notwithstanding what our chiefs have said, that we fought as a whole, and I trust them, and we fought as a nation as a whole. There's no doubt, from the prime minister to the chiefs to the man on the ground. As a nation, we rose up against what we did in Pakistan, and as a nation, we have taught China a lesson, and I've spoken of it. But the question is, could we have done better with theaterization?
Okay,
That's the question.
let me take a step back. Look, I think you are a buddhijeevi. You do every day, and you discuss with some people who are very knowledgeable. They are way better than I could ever think. We need to have a concept of strategic substitution. We must think, what if we cannot get 42 squadrons? What substitutes for 42 squadrons?
Yeah.
If we can't get 300 regiments of artillery or 350 regiments of artillery, which we think may be optimal, I'm not giving a figure. What is the strategic substitution that allows you to compensate in a budgetary constrained environment and provide similar results, instead of having that, if I can't get 155ization till 2032, I can't say, yeah, sorry, I don't have the 155s till 2032. I will fight a war after 2032. We can't do it. Today, we have to find options which are within the budgetary constraint, which provide us strategic substitution. And the strategic substitution is where you have to actually press people down, saying that, sorry, what you want is not available, and it won't be coming for next 15 years. You please plan for substitutes. And which is a substitution? Very difficult to do so, because people are already fixated into what they want. I want 510 infantry battalions, but I can't get 510 infantry battalions. I have to fight with whatever we have. Yeah, 300, 350, 400, whatever we have. So what is how, if we do not get across thinking on strategic substitution, and if we just keep amalgamating what each DG, each directorate, each service, each arm wants it and amalgamates it together to call it integrated capability development plan, well, nobody will get anything.
Yeah, that brings me back to the story, sir. Now that you take a step back, you come back to a step, you need to have a theaterized approach to the whole story, where, in fact, if you don't have that theaterized approach, right, you're not optimally utilizing, you're not going to first optimally utilize what you have. Second, you will not develop things which you don't have through strategic substitution. Let me put it this way. Today, everyone knows that we are down to 29 squadrons or 31 squadrons or whatever it is, and we are down to the lowest level of fighter aircraft ever in our history, right from 65 war. That everyone. This is not a state secret which we are putting it out. This is an open fact. Fine, we must get AMCA. I have no doubt about it. Without AMCA,
Well,
nation will go nowhere, right? We need to get the fifth generation. You need to get 4.5 generation. You need to have that mix. Damn good. You need those 42 squadrons if and when we can afford it. But till then, what do you do?
They
Till
should
then,
be
what do
cheap.
you do for substitute? What is your substitution?
So,
Is it?
so, so if you manufacture in wherever you are in Lucknow, 150 BrahMos a year,
Yeah.
I'm saying offhand,
Ah, yeah,
and
yeah.
you have another factory, another assembly line comes up with another 150 BrahMos a year, and now we have the ranges of 750 kilometers or whatever. It is not constrained to 299 when we were used to talk
Yeah,
about
yeah.
299 kilometers. 500, 750 kilometers, you are now, by virtue of having that kind of launchers spread all over India, including mounted on the aircraft with BrahMos NG, the new generation one, the thinner one, where more aircraft can carry. The kind of potency available to you only by one weapon system can do
Has changed.
tremendous amount of change.
Has
The
changed. Has changed.
character of war is changed. But you have
No,
to combine all this together. Now, theaterization. You see,
so no, I'd like to highlight before we get to
yeah,
theaterization, we'll talk of it. You see, it's not only this thing of all that. You see, why I'm saying is we are developing, I'm in the business of developing technology here in IIT Madras, where we're going to double ranges of almost all your missile systems. We have the capability. And this is a capability and this is a technology which we are doing at least cost. If that is the case and your envelope of engagement increases, don't you think we need to change? And that's where I feel theaterization comes in. So you're all yours. Uh, let's pick up
and
theaterization.
here, okay, uh, we'll come back to the issue of potency versus mass. That's another issue altogether. When you
Yeah, yeah,
say
yeah, I agree with
you
you.
are providing potency, then do we require that mass? That's a separate thought process altogether. But look, even before you say theaterization, I don't mean theater commanders at all. That's a secondary issue. Primary issue is thinking theaterization, conceptualizing the warfare. Now, if
Capability
you have,
development.
yeah, so if you
Theaterize
have,
capability development.
correct, theaterize capability development, theaterize thinking process, theaterizing fighting wars together, same room. You can't fight three. You may not have named it Safed Sagar and Opvijay. There's one Sindoor. But we need to think together. Theaterize. Theaterize is not a theaterization which means three theater commands. Theaterization implies, to me at least, that you theaterize the thinking. On the Western Front, there should be one thinking. There should be not IHCCS and Akashtir. No, there is one. It is Akashtir. It subsumes IHCCS or vice versa, whichever way. I know the threat of cyber attacks and leakage and all. Find ways. If Indians with the best of technology can't find ways, who will do it? The point I'm saying is theaterization of getting theater commanders is important, but theaterization of thinking to fight as a theater is a absolutely different thing altogether, and we need to get on with that. You cannot today say that we do not have links established. Talk. If I can't talk to you, look,
Yeah.
you're sitting in Chennai, yeah? You're sitting in Chennai. I'm sitting in Delhi. I mean, not even Delhi.
And
I'm
we
in
are
Greater
talking.
Noida. I'm Greater Noida.
Oh,
We're talking.
okay.
And see, Pakistan started making data links when, yeah, 11, 17, 2017, they had link 17. And they have gone now way beyond it. Way, because they're lucky. They have Beidou and they have Yagon and they have all these satellite systems and they have the radar and the same equipment which Chinese have got, the Pakis have got. So it is seamless. So there is no problem at all. We need to say all the redundancies of communication equipment that you have must be subsumed to find one data system. That communication, यार हम तो WhatsApp use करते हैं. Nobody, you didn't talk to me, you just send a WhatsApp message, Rakesh sir, can we talk? Data, I mean, that is theaterization. To me, theaterization means one integrated capability development plan, which is based on one war fighting concept, which is related to networking, which is related to talking to each other, which makes is integration of people and
Yeah.
all combined, and mix three MOs together. MOA, MOB, you have three gentlemen coming and briefing. I think they should be, I at least before I conk off, I want to see one gentleman coming who's operational in charge of Indian Armed Forces and saying, okay, I'll brief you on Army, Navy, Air Force and carry on with it. You
Yeah.
know, that's theaterizing.
I completely no, I completely agree with you. I completely agree with you. Let me substitute. Let me give a poser to people. I mean, it's a poser, it's a contra thinking. I'm giving a contra thought. Just think an option door. We use a whole lot of aircraft to hit those two targets, Muridke and Bawalnagar.
Rawalpur.
Bawalpur, Bawalpur. Yeah, I remember Munchinabad, M3 Ball and Bawalpur, opposite. I still,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
there in my head. Okay, now, is there a case we could have used just a BrahMos from somewhere without endangering or exposing all our aircraft and hit two BrahMos or three BrahMos, the job would have done. Why? This is probably thinking in hindsight, but I'm driving a home a point. The same BrahMos, you hit deeper to destroy all his airfields. Now, given if you had done that, this is all if ki baat hai ye. If you had done that, would the retaliation or the escalation control be better without using aircraft? And all the controversy which has come, could it have been better? The plan could have been better.
Yeah.
Could theaterization have given a better plan? Because one theater commander sits with all these things, what he has, whether it's a ground-based BrahMos, air-based BrahMos, sea-based BrahMos, he says, yeah, I'm interested in taking that fellow out. How I take it out is my headache. I have three tools with me. Let me use it. It is that which I thought, apart from, because if that's the way he thinks, then he says, this is the capability I need to operate this war. And do it. I mean, your views on this.
So it's a poser. So
It's a
it's a
poser.
poser
It's a
for
poser.
posterity. Poser for
Posterity.
posterity. But the point you're making is material. And in that, you know, it should not be that I have alternatives available in another domain which get underutilized while
Because of this,
one domain gets overutilized. So
utilized.
yeah, so the point is that I don't know whether any BrahMos was fired by ground forces at all, but that
Okay, so
means the
that
same.
there's a theoretical discussion.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
I'm not
so the
connecting it
point
with
is,
what.
point is that you know it's a question of targeting a target and which is the most suitable weapon system available to us to do that. It may not
Yeah,
be a kinetic weapon. It may not be.
yeah.
It
It may
could
not.
have.
We don't.
It could be a SEMA or a cyber electronic warfare or whatever, or space or something, whatever we can use. So if there is if you know the targets and you know the weapon systems available to you to take on that targets, and then you decide which is the best way of doing things. So I think you are material saying so. I want to add one thing. See, we talking about so much of technology. You know, yesterday's talk you spoke so much of technology. Who mans the technology? Is it all automated or require manpower? And I think if we are now saturated in manpower, then we require to downsize somewhere and compensate for modern technology by using existing manpower. So I don't like the idea of saying a drone platoon in an infantry battalion. I think neither we are training them well or not or doing that. We know we need to start thinking of how will we absorb. The absorption itself is an art by itself, and it requires a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, there's no doubt, sir. I think as we develop capabilities, as domains change, as domains interchange, as domains mix, as technologies evolve, the way we employ and induct our manpower and employ them has to be completely different. Our HR policies have to be different. Our promotion policies have to be different. Our induction no, a whole lot of things are there, and we have to be very honest about it.
Yeah,
We have to be
right.
very honest about it, because I think if Sindoor has taught me anything, right, it is the fact that we have to do a lot of introspection. Because they say failure teaches you to introspect, and victory doesn't teach you to introspect. But I think in this victory, there are a lot of points for us to introspect. And
Yeah.
that's my view. And I will not talk of the way forward, so we'll have another session on which we'll put this,
Thank you.
right? And I think the points which we have brought out are very valid. Your last points, and then we'll conclude. I'll not even take questions today.
Yeah. So I got one sentence to make. War is the best teacher. Not many people go through wars to be taught. We were fortunate that we went through a 4-day war. So it taught us. Now let's bring that teaching to fore. If we don't do it, then the next Sindhu too, we will be learning new lessons, and that will be detrimental to national effort. Thank you, Jalal
Yeah,
Shankar.
thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot. All I'd like to say is Nine Fibula, thanks a lot for becoming a YouTube member. And Krishna, thanks a lot for giving 10 Ganashot memberships to everyone else. I'd like to thank you on behalf of all those 10 who got these memberships, and I'd request those people who got free memberships to continue with this once the initial thing is over. Yeah, I'm not going to take any more questions. Today, the whole idea of putting this was putting it out to open debate. At, at no point of time, let me reiterate at the end of the day, at no point of time was this meant for any personal or any specific idea to be generated. But the whole idea was to generate options, to generate thinking. We both might have been wrong in our ideas. We might have been cockeyed in our ideas, right? I have no problem with it. But the fact is, you'll know what the color of white is only when you see black. If you don't see black, you don't see white. If you don't see white, you don't see black. Otherwise, you're only in the gray zone. In the gray zone, you don't know what you're doing. Right? Gray zone, neither the enemy knows. If the enemy has got a clear idea what he's doing, so we might be not in the same thing. So I thought today's was more for instigating thought, instigating some contra views. I'm a great proponent of air power. I'm a great proponent that India should have 42, all 42, squadrons should be stealth aircraft. But that's a wish list. That's a wish list. So I think we need to introspect. And thanks a lot, sir, for this
Thank
great
you.
discussion. You pushed me into this, and I've maybe at times I've spoken very openly. That's okay. And I'd like to thank all of you for your comments. If you like this, send it to your friends. And I'd request all uniformed people to watch this and comment. Either you can give your comments directly to General Sharma, or you can give it to me. And it'll give us an idea. It doesn't matter whether you're from Air Force, Navy, or Army or Coast Guard. As far as I'm concerned, at our stage of life, we are hitting 70 shortly. We are for the nation, and we would like to think for the nation. We've stopped thinking of our Army, Navy, Air Force long back.
Yeah, right.
So, right, we're thinking, and we'll post back the issues for the current people who are in chair, the chiefs and your principal staff officers, to debate over these issues and build a better tomorrow, and build a better set of armed forces which can, you know, uh, hold India as it rises. With this, thanks a lot to all of you. Great interacting with you, sir, on this. And once
Thank you.
again, thank you. And thanks a lot. Good evening and Jai Hind.
Bye bye.
Tomorrow morning I'm going to be back on an issue which is, I think, indicates the way India's power is changing. Today, the president of Philippines, Mr. Marcos, right? He's here in India. As this is happening, there are three warships of ours in the South China Sea carrying out a joint exercise with the Philippines Navy in contested waters. So I think this is a great strategic move at 9 o'clock in the morning. We'll discuss about it. With this, thank you, good evening, and Jai Hind to all of you.
Bye bye.
And Jai
Thank
Hind,
you.
sir.